Really quickly, before this video gets started, here's a clip of me getting an achievement for my alt account on my survival world, just to prove to you that it is 100% survival. You cannot get achievements on worlds that have ever been in creative. I know it may not prove it to everybody, but this really is the best evidence I have, and hopefully you'll still enjoy. So let's get on with the video. Oh, Loloids, it is Tadpolia 2 here, and we are finally back for my long-anticipated world tour. Now, if you're new to the channel, or maybe you just haven't seen it before, this isn't the first time I've done this world tour. It's not even the second time. This is actually the third time that I have done a world tour of my world, just because things change from year to year, and I always love showing it off, and people seem to like it. So, if you want to see what it looked like in either of the other two ones, I'll try and link both of them down below. Things change from year to year, and sometimes I'll leave some stuff out. So, if you want to check those out, those will be there. And before we get started, if you do like the world tour, and I really hope you do, I would love it if you left a like and stuck around, because I'm going to keep playing on this world. I really like it. But with that out of the way, let's get started. So, for a little background on my world, you may notice things throughout this that seem a little odd or a little inconsistent. Like, I have 27 god apples, or the fact that I have both mending and infinity on my bow. Please do not think that I cheated. That's why I threw in the achievement that I did before. It's just because this world is very old. I've had it for about 7 years at this point. I started it on March 27th of 2014. And it was on the Xbox 360 edition. It has since moved through the Xbox One edition, Bedrock on the Xbox One, and now we play on Windows 10 edition. So if you see anything like that, I'll try and explain it, but I forget. Please don't think that I was in creative, because this world has never once been in creative. So, yeah. Basically, though, when you start off in the world, you're going to start off in this little spawn area that I've created. And I think it's very cute. I absolutely love it. And this is one of the first things that I think is like a legacy of how old it is. I don't know if you can still do this, but in the older versions of Minecraft, especially like on the console editions, you could figure out your spawn by trying to place lava buckets all around the spawn area. And then in this little area that we're in right now, no lava would be able to be placed. And so you would know that that was the spawn border. And then I could create this little box for people to get stuck in. That way, you know, in case people came in and I didn't really want them to play on it, I could have them just jump around in the slime for a while, and, you know, then we couldn't let anybody through. And I don't give privileges either, because I've been griefed far too many times to do that. But I think it's a really cute area. And for the people that are going to get to play in it, I won't read them all off to you, but I have a list of rules. All 4 walls are the exact same. It basically just says, don't be a jerk, don't grief people, don't do mean things, and you should be good to go. And yeah, so that's basically what we have here at spawn. I probably ought to show off that thing up there as well. This is a little, like, it was an idea that we had, because, as we'll get to later on, I do have a few countries in my world of, like, you know, some of my friends wanted to create their own special areas, and so we thought it would be a cool idea if, like, you know, when you join the world, if you know, you're gonna spawn in my area, if you want to go to any of my friends' areas, you could come up here, meet them here, and then, like, they would take you to wherever you would go. As you will notice, it is completely empty, so that didn't actually work. It was just kind of a good idea. And now we use it for, like, photo ops, because it has a great view of all the towers over here. I think it's absolutely beautiful, and although it's not something that, you know, we get a lot of usefulness out of, I think it's great. You know, it's something cool that we can look out of. But yeah, that's basically it for, like, the base spawn area. So when you spawn in here, you're not going to have any privileges, as I mentioned. And so one of either myself or my friends will have to come and open this gate for you. We have a couple of lines of doors and stuff just to make sure that people don't just bum rush through. And so if we let you through, you're going to come down this hallway, and this is one of the first of many things you're going to notice, the dragon eggs. We do have multiple dragon eggs. Again, that's not from going into creative. That's because on the older versions, like the console editions, you used to be able to fully reset the end. Like, not just, you know, respawn the dragon with the crystals. You could actually reset the end and get, like, as many eggs as you wanted. So we got a bunch of them. And as you will notice, we have, like, a decidedly end theme to this little area right here. And that's just because we used to reset it all the time, and I don't know, I think it's really cool. So when you come in here, we have some, like, basic materials like armor. We have some tools that you can grab. I think we have food. Yeah, we have some food in here. Basic stuff that you can use just to get yourself situated in the world. That way you're not running around naked without anything and trying not to die. And that's mostly it for the main spawn area. Although one thing that I do want to get to, as you will notice, we have like a gate around spawn. But I'm very protective over these eggs as well, because when you come out this door, you'll notice that the spawn area is actually just in a jungle here. And so people found it to be their absolute favorite pastime to just punch the egg. And if you know what happens when you punch an egg, it just teleports off to Timbuktu. Took me forever to find them in this very lush jungle that we had. And so I thought, you know, still within the walls of spawn, we ought to make a little punishment for them if they're going to do that. And so I created the Shame Shack. And basically it's just a little, like, police station type thing where if you punch the egg, you fall into this nice pit. Well, it doesn't look like that. Normally it's like this. We'll put you in the cell, close the door, and then we'll pull that out from under you, and you'll fall below into the pit of shame. That way, you know, people who punch the egg are just they're gonna have to sit in the pit for a little while. And so, yeah, that's basically just like a little punishment we have in case you want to do that. But for the most part, people have wisened up and stopped doing that. So if you don't punch the egg, I will lead you out through this gateway here, and this will take you out into my main world. Now, although I had food in there, I do like to offer up a little bit of food as well, just because, like, I keep it on easy most of the time, so people are going to get hungry. You may not die of the hunger, but it takes a while to get to other parts of my world. So we have a nice little farm here. You can eat whatever you want. I think there's potatoes, carrots, wheat, and if you want to chew on bamboo, you can do that too. But yeah, and then over here, this is actually a really new project. One of my mods and my good friend Alex decided that he wanted to make an Among Us shop. And I just love it. I don't know how he figured out how to do it like this with the sus in the windows and the big Among Us player. I don't know why. And then the kitchen back here. Obviously, it's not finished. This is something that he literally worked on for like a day and then he had to hop off. So, I don't know. I'm very excited. Hopefully, it'll be finished in the next world tour. Although I said that about this castle up here, and you will notice it is still not finished as well. So, I don't know. Hopefully, that'll be done sooner rather than later. And then as you keep going, the next thing you'll probably notice is the gladiator arena that we have right here. This is just like, I don't know, it's kind of unique. I don't see a ton of gladiator arenas in a lot of other people's worlds, or at least none that are this like big and empty. This one feels much more like a football stadium, but we built it sort of just so that people could have fun, because the friends in my world, I don't know why, they just love to just like throw hands with one another and pick fights. And so I said, you know, don't do it in my city. What if we created our own special area to put it here? And so you would come in and you see like the tunnels that we have for them to enter. There's one under here as well. And so you would just come on in and they would just hash it out, usually with like iron armor and like a sword or something like that. We would bet a couple of diamonds, have fun. But then as time went on, we had a couple of prisoners, and I'll get to the prison next. But we had a lot of prisoners in the world. Not a lot, but we had enough that we're like, you know what? What if we tried to let them like fight to get their freedom? And so we would have them, you could volunteer. And they could come in here, they could hash it out for a little bit, and the winner would get a second chance. Because I believe in second chances, but you have to fight to get them. So, yeah, I don't know, I think it's kind of cute. Oh, and the E in the middle is just because I was doing a live stream, and for whatever reason, my chat spammed me, and like, they would not stop spamming unless I put the E in there, so we have an E in there for fun. Oh, why'd you have to do that, Spider? But yeah, that's mostly it for the Gladiator Arena. I just think it's a lot of fun. We don't get a ton of use out of it anymore, but it's neat. And then over here this is a really old portion of the world, so you guys probably can't tell based on how it looks now, but on the original 360 world, basically where you see that water going all along here was the border of the entire world. So this right here was in the very corner of the world, and we built this little prison here just because really it was only in case people griefed or did something bad like that. Something that it's like, you know, if you're fighting somebody, we can move past that. But if you do something really bad, we couldn't. And originally it was in, you can kind of tell, it was a plains biome to begin with. Obviously in 2014, Dark Oak did not exist in the world, and so it didn't exist in Minecraft as a whole. So as soon as Dark Oak came out, I thought it would be so cool to make this like, I think of it as like a Hansel and Gretel type little like thick forest that you'd run through if somehow you managed to escape the prison. But I don't know, I think it's a cool part of the world. And, so yeah, so if you do something terrible, this building right here, you can see it has a little railway. I'll show off the other end of it later, but this leads up to my main city, and so we have, like, a government building where, it also has some cool courts that I really like. It's basically just like a railway, and if you commit a crime, you will, have your little trial in our main city in the government building, and if you're found guilty, you will be sent by rail right to here. And then usually we'll have a couple of guards try and escort you, and we'll take you all throughout here, and luckily we now have a gate that goes all the way around it. We did have a couple of people try and escape before we did that, but for now we haven't had any escapes in a while. And then one of the guards will come on in here. You'll notice that we have a nice little fence right here. I thought I was the smartest person ever because I'm terrible at redstone. I figured out how to do a nice little lever that would open it up. And then you would have the person walk through. And then the guard would stay in there and they'd close that right back up behind you. But since it's just me, we'll have to keep going. And then we have a second gate that's right here just in case you manage to get past one. Because we did have a couple of people that were able to, I don't know how, but they were able to jump over and try and escape. So, very secure when we do it this way. And then it leads you into, like, the main area. We don't have a ton of cells in here. But the idea is that, like, it's just a little room where you have a bed where you can sleep. You have, like, a little chest to put stuff in, which apparently somebody has already put their stuff in. You also have this nice little toilet here, which, fun story about that, when we originally did this prison, I did not have that block in right there, and so, like, one of the first prisoners we had, we just found him out there swimming in the ocean, and we're like, well, that's not the smartest idea, so we had to put that in there to make sure that never happened again, and, yeah, so if a prisoner ever goes in there, we'll write their name on a sign, and then you just break the key, and they're locked in there, and we try not to do that anymore. Really, it was only for people that, like, griefed or did something really bad, but yeah, we have a couple of people that really none of them deserve to be in here anymore. But we do have a couple of names throughout here. Shout out to everyone that's in prison. And then a recent addition. This wasn't here for the longest time. And knock on wood, it has yet to actually be used. We have a nice little executioner chamber. I don't know why I called it nice. We have a little execution chamber where, like, you go in, you stand here. We'll close the door behind you. And then we'll pull that lever. And it just drops you all the way down. I think it's near bedrock, and you can see there's some XP because I had a friend who wanted to test it out, and we have some hoppers down there to grab the stuff if you manage to have anything on you. We'll let you put your stuff in a chest if you want, but yeah, and then we have these signs that basically just say you can say a last wish. I know it's like a little hardcore, but I was very concerned about getting griefed, and so I wanted to make sure we had a good message for anybody that thought they could get away with griefing. And then the last thing that we really have in the prison, aside from, like, all of the walkways, I wanted to make them so that you could look down and see the prisoners at any time, because, like I mentioned, we had quite a few escape attempts for the very few prisoners we had, so I wanted to make sure that we could actually watch it. And then in here is, my friend Ty, who is one of the OGs on the world. He is the warden, and it looks quite a bit different than it used to. I used to have, like, armor stands that had diamond armor, so that it looked like he had guards, and then surprise, surprise, in a prison, we had a bunch of people that would, like, steal the armor, and then one person just stole the stands, and I'm like, you know what, we're just gonna leave without. So now he has a cute little dog that'll protect him, and, I just think it's real cute. I think it's real nice. Definitely an older build. It doesn't look like something I would build now, but I don't know, I just think it's neat. And so, yeah, that's about it for the prison. Next up, we can move on. Obviously, the elephant in the room that I probably should have mentioned beforehand are the towers. I absolutely love these. I call them towers. You might call them skyscrapers. I'm not going to show them off for the most part, like, as we go through the video, because if you look into any of them, you will notice they're, like, completely hollow. A lot of these I built on live streams and stuff like that, and so if you want to check them out, I do have a playlist of a bunch of them I did on YouTube. Recently, I've been streaming on Twitch, so I don't have a ton of those. But yeah, I don't know. I absolutely love them. You're going to notice a lot of them. So if I don't address them too much, that is why. I just think they make a beautiful skyline, but they don't necessarily serve much of a purpose. So yeah, I don't know. I think they're cute. And then, oh, I probably should show this off as well. Like I mentioned, we have this castle that's not finished, but this right here is actually the original spawn of the world. So I know I showed off the spawn over there. I don't know why. It was like an update or something made it to where that was the spawn, but when I originally spawned, there was a little forest right around here, and that's where I spawned. And so at first, when I first made the world, I built this nice little walkway over here, and this was the original, like, spawn area. And so I know the other one I have, like, a lot of cool stuff in the chest. This stuff is quite basic. It was really just like the early days. Just if you wanted something to take with you, you could get some basic stuff there. And then it's not here anymore, but I used to have a rail that you could take to get to my city, which is now in that little area right there. But I don't know, I thought this was a very cute area for people to spawn in at. And then this right here is probably the most griefed building in my entire world. This is my friend, he went by Soundrail. He had a couple different names, but he decided that he didn't want to trek all the way to my city out there, so he wanted to build a cute little house here. And when I tell you it is the most griefed building, I do not say that in jest. This thing has been destroyed so many times. Not fully destroyed, but people love to just walk in, and apparently doors they couldn't figure out, so they would smash through his window. And all of this stuff that he has in his chest, I have put literally all of this in here because it has been ransacked so many times. A couple of people like put TNT in the first floor and blew it up. And then just to show you how old it is, this house is years old. However, it has a white bed, which tells you just how many times people would steal his bed. And so, I don't know, I just think it's a really cute house. And especially on the 360 days, this was the only farm that existed outside of, like, the ones that I had. And so, if you wanted to get a farm, this was, like, the only one that you really had an option for near spawn, especially when spawn was right there. So, I don't know, I just think it's really nice. I know, to me, it feels almost like that house in Up, where, you know, they have one little house in the middle of, like, a bunch of skyscrapers. So, I just think it's really cute, and I just like leaving it there. And then as you head over this way, this right here, it doesn't look anything like it. This is my subway building. And so this will take you over to the, over to our suburbs, and it'll also take you over to my castle. Now, in the early days before Elytra existed, this was very helpful. It since does not. But, like, I thought it was the coolest thing, because when I made it, I looked up a Minecraft Subway sandwich shop, because I thought it would be hilarious to do, like, oh, the play on words, like a Subway. So you'll notice it says, welcome to Subway, and not the Subway. I know, hilarious. But basically, you just walk in. It was just a rail. It takes a couple of minutes to get wherever you're going. So it's pretty slow. People don't really use it anymore. But at the time, I really liked it, and I thought it was helpful. So I thought that was cute. And then the this giant block of cheese. It's kind of obvious what it is, but the reason we put it here is like it's an inside joke on my channel that one of my friends and my moderator Fareed, for whatever reason during one of my streams, decided the word cheese was just banned for that day. And I was like, well, you know, it's my world, you can't ban me. And so I decided that I was going to make this wonderful little block of cheese. And I absolutely love, we have this cute little mouse that I put in here. And of course we had to name him Jerry. And I don't know, I just think it's cute stuff like this that makes my world unique. And I really love that one. And yeah, that's most of the stuff near spawn. I have one more thing over here that I absolutely love showing off. It is my baseball stadium that is right here. Now, when you see it, you're probably going to say, Tadpole, that doesn't look all that impressive. But this is by far the single longest project I have ever worked on in this world. So, it's like, I think it's 100 by 100. It's just a flat area. But it used to be a hill that was probably like that height. It was a pretty big hill. And at the time, I was using like unenchanted diamond or iron tools. And it took me, I kid you not, 3 months to create this. Between all of the quartz, between all of the wool, because I had to shear tons of sheep. I think hardened clay, which is now terracotta, was in the game. But like, given the size of an Xbox world, it was really hard to find, so I had to use just a whole bunch of wool. I think it is beautiful. I'm a huge baseball fan, and so, big Cardinals fan. I'm from St. Louis, and so I wanted to make this, and it is actually playable. So the way you play it is, the pitcher will get up here on the mound, and they fire it into the umpire. And I'm a lefty, so I'm a bat lefty. And the way that it works is you have to have a flame bow for this, and you'll pick up the arrow, and then you have like 2 seconds to pull back and fire, and then you just run the base paths. And as you're doing that, the fielder, if it hits them before it ever touches the ground, you're just out. Otherwise, they pick it up, they fire it back into the infield, and then one of the infielders is going to try and hit you with it. And technically, you can just catch a base and then say, like, oh, I'm just safe here. But the way we usually played it was, like, it's either a home run or an out. And so you would run all around the base paths, and if you got shot with your own arrow, you were out. If you made it home, you were safe. And yeah, I know it's not the best, but it's so cool. It's my longest project, and I'm really proud of it. And I did get rather lazy. I didn't dye any of the armor or make the bows flame bows, so it's still a bit of a work in progress. But I absolutely love this, and hopefully you think it's neat too. I also came in later and added the coarse dirt, because that did not exist when I was creating it. So yeah, I don't know. I think that's pretty cute. And then the last thing that I have to show off I don't consider it part of spawn, and in all honesty, it is one of my least favorite parts of the entire world. I have this little industrial district that I created over here. It was meant to be, I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. It was meant to be like an industry place. And so over here we have like the main factory that the entire little area is built off of. In the last world tour, you guys gave me a lot of suggestions that I should use campfires instead of the cobwebs up there. Great idea. I just got lazy and didn't do it. And so it's meant to be just like a little factory here. I don't think I even furnished it. No, not even almost. And we have a couple of shops that are completely empty. We have a hotel. I think that was a train station. Really not my favorite part. If you guys have any suggestions on how to fix this up, you guys always have great suggestions. So I would love to hear them, but that's basically what that is. Also, that thing right there, that floating thing, I don't know if I've mentioned it before. That is actually the very center of my world. It's at 0, 0. I had plans at one point to do something with it, but I never did. And so we're just going to ignore that for now. And we will get to the city. You probably saw some stuff back there. We'll get to the city after I go through my original spot, but we're going to head this way because this is usually the way that people take when they're coming through. And so that's pretty much everything for spawn. I absolutely love it. And as you cross this bridge, it'll take you into our little suburbs area. And the suburbs are kind of split into like 2 different areas. So the part that's down here closer to all the spawn stuff, I call this my subscriber suburbs, because when I did my first world tour and I started getting a good number of subscribers, I would originally let people join. I've since stopped doing that because I've had so many people grief that it's just not worth it. But I used to let people join, like a couple during a live stream here and there, and I would let them build whatever little houses that they want, and you guys made some insanely good things. I mean, I think, personally, my favorite might have to be Velikins over here. He went by Drone Napper at the time. And just look at this little house. He definitely stole that mop head from me. Most people just steal stuff from me when they want to build. But he has this nice little bed. And I think my favorite thing is, like, the little basement that he has here. I only recently found out he also has a nether portal. Didn't realize that was a thing, but, like, is this not just an adorable little house? Like, this just isn't something that I would build. And so I just think it's really cute, that type of thing. So I absolutely love the little houses like that, just to break it up from all the skyscrapers that I have. And I miss being able to let people on the world without people constantly trying to grief. So this is like the subscriber suburbs. And then as you head over here, this was basically created to be an extension of the original suburbs that I created. And that is because, as you will see in a little bit when I show off the city, I have a lot of skyscrapers, and my friends got very tired of building skyscrapers. So I think it was Gnarly who made the push for this. He said that he wanted to have his own little house here. And so I cleared out a big old area around here, and I started putting in these little houses. And so this one he built himself, and I don't remember putting that statue in there, but love to see it. He has his own little house here that he actually lived out of for a brief while. And we gave him this little plot, because I made these little plots because I didn't want the houses to be too big. And, of course, when I gave him that plot, he decided that he had to break the rules. And you will notice his basement extends all the way over to his neighbor's house. And I've tried finding him so many times and be like, I'm going to charge you $1 a day until you actually fix it. And he never did, so rip to whoever's house this goes under. But I just think it's so cute. I absolutely love stuff like this. And, so yeah, I'm not going to show off all the houses because there are a lot of them. This is basically just an area where we have a whole bunch of little houses, and basically all of my friends came here to build their own. So I think it's kind of cute. I also have a mansion over there. It's basically completely empty, so we're just going to skip that. But I don't know. I think it's a neat area. And then the last thing over here, I think this may have been one of the first things I actually built here, is this little church that I made. And we originally built it because I had a friend who he made his mom angry one summer, and so we didn't hear from him for months. I mean, I feel like it was probably like 6 months. And so as a joke, we decided to hold a funeral for him. So we built this church, we all came up here, we gave eulogies, and then my donkey, Taco Cat, we put his bones, like we put a bunch of bones in here and said it was like the bones, his name's Ty, and so we're like, you know, this is Ty. And we held a eulogy, and the funny thing is we invited Ty to come to his own funeral, and I think either he never showed up or he was like horribly late and was barely there for it. So I don't know, that's one of the fun things that I miss about doing this on like the Xbox, where we would just do stupid stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's a real cute thing. And then that's basically it for the suburbs, and then this will take you into the first part of my world. So you'll notice that these houses may look a little bit older or a little bit like more run down. That's because these were the first buildings that I had in this entire world. So this house right here is the first ever thing, maybe it was the mine, it was one of these two, was the first ever thing that I built in this world. And so I've changed it a couple times through the past, but this is what it originally looked like, aside from like stuff like that obviously wouldn't have been in the game. But it mostly serves as like a museum now. It tells you when I started the world, when I transferred it to the Xbox One. I should probably put a sign for when I transferred it to Windows 10 edition, But it's a basic little house that I built. I was very proud of this because I'd never done like a fancy flooring like this before. And so we have some of my old stuff that I originally had in the chest. And most of the stuff that I kept would be in these chests down here. Now they basically just serve to hold anything that I get from like the Nether or things like that. But I love this. This is a beautiful little basement I built. It's the first one where, again, I really tried with like flooring and stuff like that. And, yeah, so we have my nether portal. We'll go through that later when I start going to some of the other countries. Obviously the storage, and then this was, like, the first ever time where I tried to do, like, a full wall of furnaces. I usually would just have, like I had up here, I would just put a furnace in, like, the wall of the house and call it good there. So I was really proud that I figured that out. And, we also have a nice little entryway into my neighbor's basement. And that is because currently it just holds, a bunch of the stuff that I got from villager trading. But when I first created it, he would just build lag machines in his basement just to make me mad. I'm talking like just a bunch of redstone crap that would just be firing on all cylinders just to lag out my world. So I'm like, you know what? I need an easy way to get over there. And so I built this there just so that I could. And then obviously it links up to the mine. I will show that off very briefly here. It's nothing too crazy, but I used this mine for quite a while. And I thought I was very fancy, because most of the time you see a mine, it's just stone. I put in all of this wood trim so that it would feel a little more like home. And then mobs wouldn't spawn. And then it's just your basic strip mine that just goes off in a bunch of directions. And I don't know, I thought it was real cute. And then right up here, I also built... Originally, it was meant to be just a mushroom spawning room. And then slime spawned in here. And then slimes, I think, no longer spawn in here. So it's just a dark room that I try to avoid now. But I don't know, I think stuff like that is cool. And then let's show off the rest of my basement as well. So, as I mentioned, I've been griefed a lot of times in the world. And so, it originally looked like this. I had nothing underneath this. And I thought, you know what? If I ever got griefed, where are they coming? They're coming for my little house right here. So, what do I need to do? I need to make the most secure. And for some reason, I thought nobody would ever see this lever. I need to make this very secure little secret hideout. But as you notice, I leave it open most of the time. And so it takes you down into my, like, insanity bunker where I decided to put a whole bunch of farms. So we have, like, a semi-automatic pumpkin and melon farm that I don't really need pumpkins or melons, so I don't know why I built that. We also have a little carrot farm here, a semi-automatic sugarcane farm. It used to be fully automatic, but then it stopped doing that, so I just added the button there. We had, like, an egg dispenser. I don't know why I needed eggs, because I never ate the chickens. We have a nice little infinite water source. And then my first ever fully automatic farm. Oh, let's get that. My first ever fully automatic farm, this cactus farm right here. It still works to this day. It's one of the few farms that never breaks. And I just think it's cute, because I was really planning on, like, if everything, you know, went to heck and I had to live out of my basement, I had a bunker where I could survive out of here for years. And then I just kept expanding it over and over again. And so we went further and further. And as you come down here, you will notice I have, like, this little room. Originally, I had, like, animals and stuff in here. I have no idea why I made this grass. Not really sure. This right here will lead you down to my XP farm. But I'm not going to show that off because it's just a room where I kill mobs. And then over here is my first ever chest room. And this I was very proud of. Now, one of the first things you'll notice is this little lantern right here. That is because, as I mentioned, horribly paranoid. I thought if somebody, like, blew up everything I had, I would need to... I guess clocks weren't a thing, or I just didn't know about them. But I had this linked up to a daylight sensor, so that anytime it was daytime, this would shine, and I could be like, oh, it's daytime. Now I know that, since I'm stuck down here in a bunker. Again, very paranoid. But I absolutely love this little chest room that I created. This was, like, the first ever chest room that I created like this, where, like, I actually tried to, like, make a dedicated room just for chests. Because usually, you know, when you're first starting Minecraft, you just have chests all around your house. And I also had these cute little pillars. I just love this. This is such a cute little room. And then it leads into my little insanity area. So you saw the bed that I have upstairs. I do live out of that one. But then I thought, well, what if they blew up the house? I would need a little bed down here to live out of. And so I have a little bed here and one for my friend in case he needed to be here. And then we had this little meeting room that I treated like a war room. I thought if I was ever getting griefed, my friends and I could all come down here and discuss, like, what we were going to do. And I know it sounds very paranoid. I did get griefed a decent amount in the early days. Like, y'all know how Minecraft in, like, 2014 was. It was a little hectic, so it did have some purpose, but We never got griefed bad enough to need it. Obviously, I have the enchanting table here as well. I don't know, just another relic of the past. And then to top it all off, to make me fully self-sufficient down here, I have my animal farms, cows, pigs. These are the sheep that I sheared like crazy to make the baseball stadium. I would just change their color and then shear them for like hours at a time. Very slow process, but in the end it worked out. And then we have my chickens here, and this is where I moved them after I thought I had enough eggs from that other dispenser that you saw. So yeah, I think that's pretty cute. And then we have all of my dogs back here. These were, again, in case I got griefed, I would be able to use these to fight my battles for me. But, I had a little trickster friend of mine who, before, you can see the colors above them. I would dye all of them that specific color. But then a trickster came in here and he changed all of their colors. And then, I guess through transferring it through the different versions, they're no longer my dogs, so I probably ought to just feed them bones and fix that up. But yeah, we have all my dogs along here. We have like the queen of the pack, Queen Jemima right there. And I don't know, I just thought it's definitely a colorful room. I don't know if I would make anything like this now, but I don't know, I just love this room. And I used it quite a bit, especially for those sheep. So I think it's neat. And then just to make sure that I could never get chased into a corner, I made this one circular path that leads back up to the staircase that we saw before, as well as my mine. And the last thing that I have over here is we have probably the least used room in my entire world, my potion making room. I suck at making potions, but I figured I might need one someday, so I built this little room right here. This one actually stands the test of time. I decorated it pretty well. And then over here, I don't know why, I just made an American flag in a cave, and so I put it there. And then down here, I made a cute little room for fighting withers. When they first came out, I wanted a ton of beacons, so I made a little wither fighting room, and obviously they blew it up quite a bit, and we don't really use it anymore. If I want to fight the wither, I go to the bottom of the world. And then we have this little room that I would go into to sleep, because you know when you're fighting the wither, you're gonna die a whole bunch of times. So yeah, that's about everything that we have for my basement. Now I'm gonna show off the rest of like the original area, because like a lot of the suburban houses that you saw were for like the newer players. The OG players that first played in my world, a bunch of them got houses in here. So this first house, I can't even list off how many people owned this house. This house is absolutely cursed. I thought it was beautiful, and I gave it to somebody, and then they trashed it. They gave it to somebody, they trashed it. So eventually I just gave it to my freaking cat. And so I had a cat named Simon. He has since disappeared, so I guess it really is a cursed house. And now my horse that is slow as molasses but can jump really high, Dem Hops, lives in here. And I thought it was really bougie. I used clay for the flooring. As I mentioned, we didn't have a lot of clay, so I thought it was cool. And yeah, nobody really lives in this house. But as we come over here, this was my friend that I told you before, made a bunch of lag machines. He hasn't played on the world in quite literally years, so I don't know if he ever will come back to it. And we have since used his house to just store all the stuff we get from villager traders. And the villager trading thing is actually over here. It used to be like 7 stories tall. It was like, I don't know if you guys remember, it used to be doors rather than beds that you needed for villagers. And so I had a bunch of doors. Now we have like a little villager breeder in there. You can kind of see him in there. And then this just stores all of the best ones, like my mending villager is right there. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of helpful. And then you can start to get a glimpse of the city over there. Before we get to that though, this right here, it was the first like tall-ish building that I ever created. It's a very crappy lighthouse. I'm aware that it's incredibly ugly, but I was really proud of it. That was the first building I came anywhere close to dying after falling off of. So, I don't know. It was the first of many tall buildings. And then we have another house over here. And then you can start to see the city as we come this way. And the last thing I'll show you before we actually get to the city is this right here is my farm. This was one of the first things I built after I built the house. I absolutely love farming. And so I just wanted to make one giant area where I'm pretty sure if you farmed this whole thing, you could survive for like 2 full weeks off of just the food that you get from this. So it's a very useful thing, and I really like it. And I think that's about everything. The last thing I want to say is like the differentiation between this. I call them by different things. This is like Tadpolia or new Tadpolia, and then this is like the old Tadpolia. So now we move into the new Tadpolia. So at first I wanted to just live on this little island right here. But then I saw a desert and I decided I wanted to move over here. So I built this pyramid first. The pyramid is also kind of cursed because everyone who lives here ends up like leaving the world soon after. And so, except for one person, my friend Gnarly, who's lived in a bunch of these houses. And so, now we just have a bunch of skeletons in here to make it, you know, an actual thing. They have some of their old stuff in the chests as well. And, as we come over here, you'll notice the castle. The castle is what I live out of now. And it is one of my favorite things. Actually, before we show off the castle, I should show off all of the towers that we have. I don't know why. It was around 2014, and I always have to like preface this by saying this was before he ever ran for president or anything like that. I had been to Chicago, and I loved, like, Trump Tower just looked cool, and with the big T on it. And so, obviously, as Tended Tadpole 2, I wanted to put, like, a T for Tadpole Tower. Again, before any of the political stuff happened. Nothing political. I just thought it was really cool, and so I wanted to make a tower like that. And to test it out, I made this thing. I call it Swirl Tower. For obvious reason, it looks like a swirl. And you can see at the very top, when I got my first 10,000 subscribers, I put a little sign up there that says 10,000 made out of gold. I think it's really cute. It's a great memento that I really like. And we also have a graveyard right there. I'm not going to go close to it because it has real names of like people that I know and my friends know that passed away. And so to protect their privacy, we'll leave that. But yeah, so my castle. This is basically what I lived out of and where I still pretty much live out of. It's pretty big. You'll notice in the middle, it's mostly empty. I kind of do that on purpose because look at this view that you get of the towers. Like if I filled it up, you may not get to see all those towers, and I absolutely love it. And so, obviously, I have to have a little throne right here, because I'm the king of the world. And along the outside, you'll notice a bunch of signs. Those are just the names of anybody that donated during streams and things like that, just as a way to, like, thank them. So, if you ever did donate, fear not, your name is on the wall in here. And then I have a couple of guards in here that just keep me safe or something like that. I don't really know. But the big attraction is underneath. So obviously I have these beacons that will give me the effects. But the real lag machine comes from down here. I have hundreds upon hundreds of chests that have anything and everything you could possibly want. So like I have my wood right here, my valuables down there. We have stone, we have sand, we have a bunch of food and tools on this side. I mean, anything you could possibly want, I have throughout this chest room. This half of the chest room is fairly new, so it doesn't have a whole lot in there. But, I mean, look at all of this. And then another new feature of this that I made within the past year as well. This little basement down here. Now, if you go and watch the old world tours, you can see, like, what the basement used to look like. It was ugly. It was very ugly. And so I wanted to make it very useful, so we have this cute little enchanting table. I just love the way that looks. And then, once again, my obsession with farming. I had to give myself a little underground farm here. I don't use it too much. I usually, if I need to, like, farm somewhere else, sometimes if I'm coming to grab materials, I'll just grab it from here. And then, my favorite mob in the entire game is Mushroom. I love them because, like, you don't even have to kill them to get food off of them. I think that's great. And so, I brought a couple over, and I brought some mycelium as well. I think it's very cute. And then we have another cactus farm, another semi-automatic sugarcane farm right here. And then one of my viewers, while I was doing a live stream creating this, told me I should make an automatic chicken farm. And so, you know, I thought that would be useful. So we came over here. They grow up, burn in lava, and it goes in here. I don't know. I just love this. I'm obsessed with food. I love having a ton of food in the world, so I just love having it. And then probably the most decorated building you will, or the most decorated room you will see in the entire world is my bedroom. This is where I'd put all of the effort I could possibly put into decorating one room into this. And, you know, I think it's alright. I think it turned out really nice. So this is the bed that I'll sleep in. Yeah, nothing crazy. It's just I'm horrible at decorating, as you've noticed. And I just love that I have a view of a farm. Cute little room. I just think it's nice. And then the subway that I showed you earlier, this is actually where it meets up. And so, you know, if you want to go all the way back to spawn, you can from here. I think it also meets up with the suburbs. Yeah, it meets up with the suburbs as well. So, I don't know, kind of neat. And then the last couple things, this also leads over to my XP farm. Again, I don't think it's very interesting, so I'm just not going to bother showing it to you. If you want to check it, I think I've shown it off in the old world tours. We have the Jubbins Jacuzzi right here, because all rich people have their own indoor pool. You know, you gotta have that. And so we have this right here. Over here, we also have a lifeguard, just because, you know, I gotta stay safe. And a diving board, because that's bougie. Although you probably would hit your head on that sea lantern, but yeah, that's cool. And then we have a little area for my cats. Originally, I wanted to make this a snow farm, but I don't know if it's because we're in the desert or what. Snowmen would not survive in here. So now we just have my kitties, and hopefully they keep all the creepers away. And then in here, we also have an armory. This has been used almost not at all. Basically, it just stores all the extra arrows I get from my XP farm. And I don't know, just a cute little room. And it also has like I have one set of netherite armor, and then I think that's the only other set of netherite armor that I have in the entire world. So I wanted it to be bougie and to look very good, so I really like it. And then we have this cute little aquarium that I believe I named after people that donated during a couple of streams. And then, oh, what's this? The most secure little room that has ever existed. No one has ever put a little room behind a painting. There's nothing in here except for like a bunch of valuable stuff that I had, so nobody steal that. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to do something with this someday, but I just never got to it. And so that's about it for my basement. Although there's one last thing that I do want to show off. This, I'm just really proud of it. You're probably wondering, how did you get all of the materials for all of your builds? And I never want to lie, I have duplicated in the past. So that's how I got some of the rarer blocks. But things like stone, cobblestone, and wood, I'm not a huge fan of doing that. And so here at the bottom of my world, I mined out pretty much everything. I mean, like, the majority of, like, the Xbox 360 size world is just mined out here. I got thousands upon thousands of blocks of stone. So much so that I was able to place 100,000 blocks of stone in my new city. And so I just think it's neat. People always love looking at it. We have a rail duplicator here. Back when I used to, like, actually make rails that would go everywhere. Now I just use, like, ice tunnels, so this is pretty obsolete. But basically it would, like, you know, shake here. The rails would get caught, and then it would send them through this little track to put them into these chests here. There was almost certainly a better way to do that, but that's just how I figured it out. And then this right here is a slime farm. Absolute tragedy. I think I created this on, like, Xbox One or Xbox 360, and then through transferring it, this is no longer a slime chunk, so it doesn't work anymore. So, very sad, but yeah, that's basically it. I just love this. I mean, look at that. It barely renders in how much I've mined out. So, I just think that's really cool. And it took a lot of time, so I had to show it off. But, yeah, that's basically it for my house. I have lived here. I lived in the original house for a couple of years, and then basically as soon as I had the castle with the underground area, I'm like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, oh, no, you hate to see that. I'm gonna live in this nice little castle that we have here. And so I just live here. And because it has just so many chests, the beauty of it is everyone used to rob me. They used to come and grab stuff out of my basement. But because of the number of chests, it is so laggy. People can just physically not exist down here. So it's very, very good anti-theft. Just have so many chests that it lags people out of the world. And then I have a back entrance over here that has a couple of extra horses. Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that name. Okay, neat. So that's the guest horse, and then this is my horse, Zeus. And then, as we come out here, sort of like I said in the beginning, I don't want to show off every tower because, there's a lot of them. But I think my favorite tower of them all would have to be, this is what we call WCPM Tower. WCPM was like the little clan that I had back in like the Black Ops 2 days. And so, when I made the world, obviously, I built the first tower, I built Tadpole Tower, and then my friends all wanted their own towers, because they thought it was a cool idea. And so I had one build it there, and then the next one decided to build it higher, and then the next one decided to build it higher, and the next one decided to build it taller. So, like, because they just kept getting taller and taller, we decided the tallest of all of them will be WCPM Tower. None of us own it, and basically, it's just an area where we could have a meeting room, where, like, you know, all the different countries could come in here and meet, and have a conversation, and, like, you know, it brought us together instead of fighting over who has the tallest tower. And I mean, especially up here, it just gives you a great view of everything that we have. Oh, that right there is also a cute little statue that I made of myself. That is where the XP farm, it's beneath that. It also has the end portal, but I'm not going to show that off because I haven't done anything too interesting there. But, yeah. And then the last thing I should really show off in the city is this right here. I call it Tadpolia Federal Island. It's a tiny little island that's just off the coast of our main city. And I just thought it would be cool if we had, like, all of our government stuff there. Because, you know, as the king, I had to have a government. And so it only has the two buildings. It has the bank and then our government building that I call the Nonagon. So the bank is pretty straightforward. You walk in. We've been robbed so many times that I cannot count. But you basically walk in, throw your diamonds across, because diamonds are the currency in my world. And then there would be somebody in the back. We used to have dogs here to protect it. but apparently they ran off because they didn't care anymore. And then you would take the diamonds up here, and like everybody has their own like labeled chest. Like that's my chest. I'm the richest in the world, obviously. And so each of us have our own amounts. Because it got robbed so many times, I have a little notes thing on my phone that tells me how much money each person has, just because this is usually not accurate. And then up here for the newer members, they also have their own. And then obviously the government has to have its own bank account. So if ever I need like roads built or something like that, we just pull out of this account and give it to them. So yeah. And then the other building is the Nonagon. That's the one that I was alluding to before. It's our main government building. You know how like for the US, I'm from the United States. And so in the US, they have like the biggest government building is called the Pentagon because it's 5 sides. Well, my favorite number is 9, and so I'm like, we gotta outdo the Pentagon, so it's the Nonagon. It's a 9-sided building. It's technically 9 sides, because if you come to this back room back here, you'll notice that this is, like, curved, and curves are not sides. So this isn't a side. If you count this, it would be 10 sides, but it's really 9 sides. And this right here is the little, like, cell area. When I was at the prison, this is what I was talking about where it meets up, so if you are found guilty in court, you'll be sent through here. First, if you know, you're arrested for something, you'll be put in this little holding cell here, and then you'll come over here, and we have a nice little courtroom, and we have held quite a few court cases in here. And as the king, I always preside over the cases unless I'm part of the case, like somebody's coming after me. So we have the prosecution and the defense. We have held many court cases here. Usually it was about like if somebody griefed. Well, griefs were pretty big deal. But usually if somebody was fighting and killed somebody, if somebody stole something. A funny one that we had was like my friend Salbert. We tried to get her on the world one day, and she was like, I can't, I'm reading. And so the next day we brought her to court for being a nerd. And she was found guilty of being a nerd, and she had to pay a fine. So I thought that was funny. We try to have fun as much as we can. And so because I'm the judge, upstairs, the only room that we have upstairs is my little office up here. And it's nothing too crazy, although I do think it's kind of funny. My friend Gnarly, when he wanted to build his house in the suburbs, he didn't have the money to buy the plot. So he worked as my secretary for a little bit, and it was great because anytime people would come up and ask me questions, he'd just tell them to leave. And so I have a little office here that's kind of cute, and I absolutely love, I have this wonderful little view that I have of the rest of the city. And I don't know, I think it's real quaint and cute, and so, I don't know, I absolutely love it. And I'll close the door so no baddies can get in. And, yeah, over here is, I started getting tired of building, towers for a little bit, so I wanted to try a couple of other things. We have a, whoops, you gotta get away from me. We have a permanently unfinished tower that I wanted to put a crane in, but I never actually did. We, like, half started a tower and then decided we'd just leave it unfinished because it looks kind of cool. And then this right here, it was meant to be, I think it was meant to be just like a snake, but everybody just calls it a damn onyx from Pokemon. For obvious reasons, it kind of looks like one. And so I just thought it would be cool to have it like swimming in lava. This, I didn't even look up a tutorial or anything like that to build this. I just came up with this, and I thought it was really cool. And then over here, we also have a nice little mall area. It's not very good. Originally, it was just a ravine, as you can probably tell. And then I threw in some stuff to make it look a bit more like home. It gets absolutely no action. Nobody ever comes here. But when I had, like, leftover blocks, because at one point, my basement did actually get full. The chest got really full. And so I just started, like, throwing stuff in these chests. Yeah, like shulker boxes, some obsidian, I think dirt. Yeah, dirt was the main one that we had in here. I just started throwing stuff in these chests, just so that, like, this was my overflow, and if you wanted to buy stuff because, you know, my basement was too laggy to steal from anymore, you could come over here. And, yeah, I thought it was real cool. And then I basically own all of the shops. We also have, this was like when I first started trying to learn how to decorate. I put this little thing in here. Why do you keep coming for me? Come on now. I put this little, it's meant to be like a tavern type thing where like you could come and eat, and then in the basement, like they have a little cellar where they cook up all the food. It doesn't look great, but like I'm horrible at furnishing things, so I thought it was kind of neat. And then this right here, it's a little bit crass. It is a suicide booth. This was based off of, because I think my friend got me to watch like Futurama or something like that. And so like in the first episode, I think that's where like Bender and Fry meet. And so they, you know, they met in one of those, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of a funny idea. And so the same way as the execution chamber, you walk in, and then the floor will fall out from beneath you, and you'll fall all the way down. We have hoppers down there, and then, you know, the person who owns it can go down and grab all their stuff. it's more gimmicky, and since then, I don't know, it's a little crass, and I feel bad about making it, so I don't know, it was just kind of an interesting idea that didn't necessarily pan out very well. And then the only other shop that I do not own is Ty's cartography shop. He really wanted to map out like our entire city, because for the most part, we don't map a lot of stuff out. And so you will notice we are right about here on the map, and it's actually upside down. But, you know, he started mapping out the whole city, and this was the first ever 3x3 map that we made. And so this was, like, how we got the achievement back in the olden days. And, yeah, I don't know, I think it's a little neat. We don't have a ton in here, and people do not like to buy things very much from us, but, you know, it works out. And, yeah, that'll do it for the most part for the city. We will come back to go to some of the other cities, because they're tied through, a Grant Central Station that I have in here. But the next thing that I want to show off is actually what was meant to be another country. So I absolutely love the city. I think it's great. But over, like, you know, probably like the 4-year, 3-year mark that we made the world, my friends were getting tired of always living in my city. And so they wanted to make their own countries. And so this was meant to be the first country. So my friend Gnarly, he played all the time, and so I thought he'd be the first one to get his own country. So he picked this little snowy area out here. And I built this bridge for him. It took me a couple days. I love the bridge. I think it's gorgeous. And we built it out here to this snowy area, and we started putting houses in. And then he decided he didn't want it. He didn't want this to be his country. And a running theme is he has made a new country about 5 times now. Every time he gets a plot and we start building on it, he decides he doesn't want it. So I call this just the snowy suburbs. Basically, when I first started getting good amounts of dark oak, I started building houses out of like stone and dark oak just to see what the houses would look like. And I think they're real cute. I think that I've made some great designs. My friend John made a cute little heart for me. I thought that was adorable. And so anytime we want to make a new house, we kind of just test it out here. And I think it's pretty neat. And now I'm going to leave so that I don't get shot by those guys. But yeah, this was basically meant to be the first country. And it didn't pan out terribly well. And so he has had a few countries in his day. None of them really stick, but, you know, it kind of is what it is on that mark. And then, oh, I forgot to show this off as well. So that over there was the mall that I showed. This right here was meant to be the original mall. And so when we built this, it was with the intention of being a mall. But as you will notice, it's absolutely ginormous. It is so big, and it had way too much room to try and fill it with all of the rooms that we wanted to make. And so instead, we decided to turn it into a hospital. Once again, terrible job decorating it, and so there's a whole lot of nothing. We have a little cafeteria in here. We have like a janitor's closet. We have a whole bunch of waiting rooms. I have not done a good job decorating this, and that's something that I definitely need to come back to, but I don't know. I thought it was a neat idea. So that's just kind of all we have. And that about does it for this main city. But this city was basically finished a couple of years ago, and in the past few years, I have started creating new cities and my own little countries. And so to get to those, we'll actually have to start heading through the Nether to do that. So first things first, let's go through. I used to have like an old-looking Nether Hub that was like alright. I didn't think it was the greatest thing in the world, but then I built this one in the last year. So this was actually since the last world tour. Sorry to interrupt here really quick, but if you've made it this far into the video, I would really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind leaving a like. It really does help with the YouTube algorithm to get the video shown to more people, and it helps me to grow my channel. And if you're feeling really generous, I would absolutely love it if you would consider subscribing. It's completely free. If you don't like the stuff that I make in the future, you can always hit the unsubscribe button later. But it really does help me so that I can keep making more videos like this. But yeah, thank you for listening to that, and let's get back onto the tour. I built this little thing, and I just think it's cool. I have a little dome, and then glass that goes all the way down. I'll try to be careful and not die to any of those ghasts. But it kind of looks like a silo, like a missile silo type thing. And I just think it's wonderful. I absolutely love this. It turned out just how I wanted. And so the way that you get to stuff is, we have tunnels that lead in all of the cardinal directions. Obviously, except for that direction. So we have Salbert stuff in that direction. And first off, we will head to, I call this Tadshire. I did a series called Running Away, and I'm going to show this off briefly because I have already done a tour of this area before. But I did a series called Running Away. I kind of just wanted to do like some new things because I had never done anything like old-fashioned before. Most of my stuff, as you can see, is like city and base like that. So I wanted to make like an old-timey area. So I decided, I made a portal. I at first left all of my stuff back at home, and we started anew, and we created a new area. And the nether portal is not in the best location. That is just an ice tunnel that you can take to get over there, but I will actually fly over here. And I made oh, I don't remember. Maybe it was like 16 episodes out of building this little area. It took me like 6 months to do it. I finished it during quarantine of last year. And if you want to see that, I do have a full tour of it that you can watch. I'm going to just like fly over it for the most part. It was meant to just be like an old, like English or Germanic town. I don't remember which it is. As you can see, big fan of dark oak and stone. And so we made just a whole bunch of houses. And I really appreciated anybody and everybody that watched it. And so like basically every house is named after somebody who watched it. We have a whole bunch of houses out that way. I built like a shopping area. I have a cool little, I think it was based off of like Dallas Med's statue. I made a cool little statue right there. And we just had a lot of fun. I made a whole series out of this. And I don't know, I just think this is adorable. None of the houses are terribly well done. I did try and furnish like all of them, but I'm not the best at furnishing, and this is like, this really tested my patience and my my chops at furnishing, but I thought it turned out decently well. And so, yeah, that's basically it. This is called Tadshire because, you know, that was given to me. I think it was like Drumstick or Harmony told me that, you know, it would sound like an old English place, so I thought it was cool. So that's about it for this area. Okay, so heading back through the Nether Hub, we just came from Tadshire, which is down this way, and now we're going to head down this hallway over here, and this leads to the newest part of my world. And it's a place that I call Tended Groves. Not the best name necessarily, but I think it's kind of cool. And this is the newest city that I've been working on. I actually started it in August of last year. I think it was like August 19th or something like that. And the nice thing about this area is like a lot of the other stuff that I've shown off, especially like my original city, is a lot of hearsay. It's just stuff that I did before I ever really did anything on YouTube. And so there isn't much to show for it, whereas for this, pretty much everything that I built in Tended Groves was either a combination of like live stream or video, and so I'm really happy with it, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it too. And so let's get over there. And welcome to Tended Groves. I absolutely love this new city. I just think, you know, it's like a lot of the older stuff that I showed off. I'm really proud of it. I still really like it, but it definitely feels like stuff I would have built years ago. And I feel like this is a much better like showcase of how I build now. So let's get started with it. So first things first, when you spawn in Tended Groves, you're going to come through the nether portal right here at this temple here. It doesn't really have a name other than the temple. And it was like the first thing that I built in here while I was clearing all of this out. And I don't know, I thought a lot of the nether blocks were cool. So like especially the blackstone, I absolutely love. And this blue fire, I just can't get enough of. So I thought it would be cool to make something like this. I had a couple of friends help me with it as well. And it's absolutely gorgeous. And the reason that I have it like this is where I actually live. I never really built a house in this new city, just because, I don't know, I get so bored of houses, and, I don't know, I just thought it would be cool to live out of this. So we just have, like, all your essentials. We got, like, my wooden stuff in here that I can use to build. Basically anything I could need to build new stuff, I try and keep in here, although I do have a couple of, like, little storage areas all throughout. Just, I think it's beautiful. And then, when you come out through here, I think the first thing I probably noticed when I get into Tended Groves would have to be the Parliament building right here. And the reason we have this is because about a year ago at this point, I think maybe a little longer than a year ago, I started a Discord server for my channel. And if you want to join that, it should be linked down below. But the people in there decided that they wanted to form their own little government for our world. And so they did. We held an election for a president of the Discord, and they actually formed a little parliament for them. And so we have a bunch of senators and things like that. And so as you see here, we have all of these seats where they come and meet. And the president gets to sit in there and they make laws and things like that. They don't really do it in the world. We have our own like separate Discord that they created for that. But I just think it's really cool, and they can come up with laws and things like that. And I don't know, I thought it was a lot of fun. And I mean, this is just, I've never built anything like this before, and I just thought it looked absolutely beautiful when I did that. So I created this little thing, and then I think one of my favorite parts about it is that, like, all of the individual senators have their own little offices where, like, I tried to personalize it as much as I could. Yeah, like this one especially. I tried to personalize it to, like, their personality, and, you know, some of them just turned out rather wacky, so I really love the way that this came out. And, you know, it's just trying things new. That's what I love about this. And then we have a few more government buildings. So this was like the first one that I created, and then I thought, you know, we may as well have a whole government based around it. That cow right there is actually, it's called the Prison Mike statue, and that is because the president of the Discord, the first one we elected, is Prison Mike, and he wanted me to make a giant cow in his honor, so of course we have to have that. This right here is, we call it the Parthenon, I believe. Yeah, the Tadpolian High Court Parthenon. It's basically meant to be like a little Supreme Court thing. And I think it's kind of cool. This one is not meant to be like a day-to-day issue. This is meant to be like, you know, if the parliament passes a law that I am not a big fan of, you know, I would come in here and be like, yo, knock that off and get rid of that law. So I think it's cool. The same way as we have in other places, we have a defense, a prosecution, and then this one actually has like an audience section where people can sit, and I just think it's really neat. And then I also put in some offices back here for like the attorneys. Salbert wanted to be an attorney, so she took her own desk, but I just love the way this turned out. That right there, I'm not going to go into it because it's pretty boring. It's basically just an ice tunnel that'll take you back to my main city because, as I mentioned, the rails are not as quick as they used to be. And yeah. So this stuff over here is like basically all of the government buildings that we have, aside from these ones, obviously. And this stuff is actually really recent. This stuff I created in like the last 2 weeks. And so the first thing that we created right here is this little bunker type thing. I'm still not completely over the idea of like getting griefed. So I wanted to build a bunker just in case something happened. I don't really know what. And so you come in here. I love this little entranceway that I put in there. And we have an area over here where people can come and they can sleep. And we also got fishies that they can look at that I believe I messed up the water, so they're stuck on the ground, but they like it. They're okay with it. It also has like a little semi-automatic carrot farm in there. And then over here is just storage, but I didn't actually finish it because I ran out of wood. So I didn't want to do that, but I don't know. I just love something like this. I think it's real cute. But that's basically it for the bunker. It was just meant to be a thing where, like, the same way as, like, my original basement, if something were to happen, I could go in there and, like, you know, start to plan out my next moves from there. This right here is the bank. It works the exact same way as my original bank that I showed off on Tadpolia Federal Island. It's actually meant to be, like, a branch of the same bank. And I think this is a great example of, like, how my build style has just gotten better since the last one I built. So we have the same tellers that we had in the other one. I also put in a little ATM, a nice little office in here, as well as the one just sitting out there. And I don't know, I just think it's nice. And then this right here might be my favorite of the government buildings, aside from the parliament, obviously. This one I actually did on a live stream fairly recently. It is the Royal Institute of Infrastructure, so basically any roads or bridges that need to get put in place, we have it in here. And it's just a quaint little office building where, like, you know, you have reception, we have the big sussy boy conference room. I don't know why people just wanted me to name it that. And so we have that in there. Over here, we have, like, a little supply closet. We have, like, an HR person who will fire all the baddies. But my favorite stuff is when you go upstairs. So this is kind of bland still. This is just, like, it was meant to be, like, a hipster-type office area. You know, where you don't have cubicles. You just sit wherever and do that. And then the bosses get to sit in their, like, glass conference room. Or not conference room. Their glass offices in the back here. And we even put a bathroom in, and we also have a swell little conference room. This is kind of cute and all, but I think my favorite part of this is the very top floor, and that is because people kept arguing over who would be in charge of the Royal Institute of Infrastructure. And so my mother, who goes by Mama Tadpole, if you ever see her in the chat, she said that, you know, she would take over the role of being, what do we call it, like the Secretary General? Yeah, the Office of the Secretary General of the RII. So she is in charge of all of the infrastructure in my world. She has a big desk right there with a really nice chair. And, you know, she wanted a bed in case she has to work, you know, long days and stuff like that. And then people were saying they'd try and take it from her. So she wanted a boxing ring so she could fight them. And we also have an egg so that people can sleep in if they ever get tired. And then if you want to watch TV during a break, this is permanently set to Cartoon Network. Just because that's a great television program. And we also have some nice areas so that people can, like, eat lunch out here. It's not the greatest thing. I just think it's, like, it's so cute. I like it. This reminds me of, like, an actual office building. Like, especially something like Google would have where they have a bunch of, like, weird techie stuff. So, I just think that's really cool. And then the last government building that's, like, in this area is the library that's over here. It's pretty basic. There's nothing, I'm not good at decorating libraries, so it's just a bunch of bookshelves everywhere, and then you can come in and sit down and read your favorite book. We didn't even put out an area so that you could check out, but you know what? I think that's fine. I think it looks pretty good. And that leads into one of the older parts of this city, because I started putting in those towers basically as soon as I got here. But when I was clearing out this area, we had somebody by the name of Luke Olson donate a few $100s just out of the blue, and I really appreciated it. So we named this entire shopping district after him. And these were just done because a lot of the people that watched had great suggestions for stuff like Mr. Pie. He wanted a pie shop, and we basically just went around and built a bunch of these little shops and things that like you might see in an actual thing. Obviously not a head shop like this, we just sell heads. But I thought it would be really cute to have an area like this where, you know, we have a city with a bunch of towers and stuff, but nothing actually occurs commerce-wise. And so we have a nice little apparel company. We have a like a shear and sheep shop, so you can get all your wool and stuff like that. And I'm not gonna go through all of them. I have done an in-depth tour of this area as well, so if you want to check that out, you can. But I mean, I just love the aesthetic of this. I just find absolutely gorgeous as you're walking through here. And sadly, we don't have a lot of sales to show for all of this. Nobody has come through to buy anything since I created it, but I just think it's really nice. And I also have this little area over here. I do now have a zoo that's all the way out there that I'll get to, but this was like the first area where I held any like exotic animals, and I think it's really nice. And then we also have the one and only animal farm that exists in the entire city. So if ever you need any food or anything like that, you can just come here and grab a whole bunch of it. So yeah, and then there are two more government buildings to show off that I'm really proud of. The first one is a bit of a weirder one. That head shop that I showed you right there, I made a video about it, and in that video I said I'm the only one that's allowed to sell the heads there. And then, of course, one of my senators decided that's illegal, that's a monopoly, we're gonna get rid of that. So I created like a secret police, and it looks very ominous, looks like a little prison. And we have a nice little like, I mean, this is a prison cell. There's no way around it. This is just a prison cell where we can lock up people who decide to talk bad about the king, because I am the king of this entire area. And I just think it was really funny. I thought it was cool. But that's not actually my favorite. My favorite of the government buildings, I think I've said that about a few of them. The coolest one that I built that I didn't use, like, I didn't base it off of something else per se, is this right here. It is the town hall that we have. So the parliament that you saw before was a, that's for like, you know, that's the Congress of the world, where they pass the laws, where they pick like important things. Technically they only have jurisdiction over the Discord, but I let it bleed over. But this right here is the town hall. These are the guys who will handle like the day-to-day stuff. And so I'm not going to show you all of this, because these are a bunch of like empty offices that just go all the way up. Like, I mean, you can see just how tall that is. They basically go all the way up with a bunch of offices. But on either side of it, we have a city council right here. And this is where they'll decide, like, for some of the towers, I have, like, a height limit because I don't want them to go too tall. And, like, that kind of stuff would be decided by the city council. I don't know if they've ever actually had a meeting, but I just kind of informally make decisions and then say that the town hall came up with that. And then on the other side of this, I know I showed off the high court before, but like I said, they don't take care of, like, the day-to-day issues. This is where you would go if you were just beefing with somebody, and like, you know, if they stole one of your diamonds or something like here, you would come to this court, have a nice little chit-chat, and we'd figure out who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And so I think it's cute. It's a nice way to liven things up. And again, this is just a build I never would have imagined that I could have made like years ago, and I just think this is absolutely adorable. And, yeah, I think that's about everything on this side of the city. Oh, I should also show off, I don't know why I love this so much. We have, like, the running joke that, like, you know, the cheese that I had on there. Apparently, chicken was a part of that as well. So I decided to build a golden chicken with a diamond beak. And I don't know, I thought it was funny. And that is right above my little mine in here. I don't think it's as impressive as the one that I have in my castle, but I still did mine a significant portion of the world down here. It also has a fun slime block thing that you can land on that I think is cute. And, yeah, for anybody, I got a lot of comments on the last one saying that, like, I definitely went to creative because of how many buildings I have made. It takes a lot of stone. I get a lot of stone to build these things. So, I don't know. I think it's more fun to mine this way to get your stone rather than just doing strip mining. So, I think it's cool. I would like to raise the ceiling a little bit, but at this point, I think it's a little late for that. So, yeah, I don't know. That's just kind of a minor aspect of it that I thought was cool. As well as, I don't know why I did this, but, like, I'm in college, and right before I moved out, I was doing a stream from my dorm room, and I'm like, you know what? People wanted me to make a one-to-one scale thing of my dorm room, and so, for whatever reason, I built I built my dorm room. So, like, you walk in, I had my desk here, bed, my roommate and his Xbox and stuff like that. I don't know, it's like, this was just a small feature that I forget about stuff like this when I'm not trying to show it off. So, I don't know, I thought that was neat. And then, as I think one of my favorite things to do is just to head through the towers. Now, we have this little parkour course that I put that in there recently. It doesn't look very good, but it looks pretty fun to, like, jump around it. And so, these are a bunch of the towers that we had. I used to do live streams where, like, once a day, I would just create another tower. And so, they're all pretty much empty. And, you know, they're just for looks. But I think it's a beautiful skyline. I love it. And then, before we head all the way over to the rest of the city, this little area right here has quite a bit of interesting stuff. So that right there is the Fox Sanctuary, and that is because, one of the people that was watching me last summer, his name's Jayton, for whatever reason, he just decided that he had a vendetta against foxes. So he would donate, like, $5 at a time to get me to kill foxes. And so, a lot of people didn't like that, so we banded together, and we built this cute little fox sanctuary down here where I don't want to go in there because they love to get out when I try and go in there. But, you know, they have trees and stuff. They have a little, like, fake hill, and they have water in there just so that they're very comfortable. And this is to pay respects to the ones that may have lost their lives at my hands. So I like having that. And then I don't know why I built this, but I decided I wanted to take a break from some of these towers in here. And I made this little town square that I think is just absolutely adorable. So, obviously, I had to have a giant statue of me. It looks great. I don't know. I think I did a pretty good... Oh, here, let me take my armor off so you can see it. I think I did a pretty good job, like, you know, one-to-one trying to make mine. It looks a bit, like, run down, but I wanted it to look like it was... You know, it looks a little gray. You know how, like, the Statue of Liberty, it looks green even though it's supposed to be copper? I was trying to go for, like, the same thing there, so... Nice little statue of myself, and then we have a little walkway, a playground, but I think my favorite thing in the town hall, or not the town hall, the town square, is Tended's Pet and Eat. And I just thought it was funny. We had a bunch of bunnies that we got. You can see that floating dirt thing right there. When we were originally flattening out this area, there were a bunch of bunnies that somebody that was helping me with it, she wanted to just hold on to the bunnies, and so we kept them up there. And I decided to make Tended's Pet and Eat, where it's a petting zoo as well as, you know... After you pet them, if you want a little snack, you could eat some bunny nuggies. We'll put it that way. It's a little morbid, but I just thought it was really funny. And, yeah, I think that's about it. We do have some automatic farms down there, but they don't look too interesting, so I think we'll just skip those. And then we just have even more towers. I love the towers, but, like, there's not a lot to say about them. So, I don't know. I just love flying through them. That's why I put the parkour course in, because I thought it looked cool. And then this is something, we literally built this yesterday as of recording this. I did a poll, or not a poll, we did a thing on one of my Twitch chats where you could, like, donate your channel points, and if we, like, pooled them all together, I would let chat decide just, like, one build that I would have to make. And they decided on a spaceship, and I said, nah, I don't know how to make a spaceship. And so instead, we built this little, like, crash landing site that was, like... I mean, I love this. I mean, I meant for it to look like there was like a meteor type thing that struck in the middle, but really it's meant to be like a UFO that kind of burned up in the atmosphere. And I don't know. Ow! I hate to see that. I think I did a pretty good job with it. We had smoke all over the place, and a lot of people helped me figure out. I didn't even realize that with these campfires, first of all, you could cover them up. Didn't know that was a thing. As well as, I didn't know if you put hay underneath them, it made it to where the smoke went higher. So I just thought that was real cool. And then that leads into, like, the really new stuff about the city. So this stuff, I built all of this within, like, the past month or so. And so, let's go, like, piece by piece. So this right here is the zoo that I'd mentioned before where we have, I don't know, you know, we don't have a lot of exotic animals all over the place, and, like, especially fish like these. Since my world is so old, I don't have a lot of those, like, special ocean stuff nearby. So I went out and grabbed a couple of fish and threw them in this tank here, and I think it's a nice little entryway. And then you come in here, and people were up in arms that I had that pet and eat shot where you could kill the bunnies. And so here, the bunnies are absolutely safe. These are actually descendants, I believe, of the other one. Yeah, I just took a couple bunnies out of that, and we came over here. And they have a lovely place where they can run around and play, and they will never be eaten. This right here is where I keep my bees now, because I used to just keep them in one of my houses, and I didn't realize they could just fly out the door if I had it open. So we have a cute little area in here where the bees are able to live in peace and harmony amongst all of the flowers that they could possibly want. And, yeah. And then over here we have, I love this one. I've made a couple of panda sanctuaries in the past, but I never thought they looked all that good. And so this one I wanted to look fairly natural. They have their own little, like, creek thing right here. And the pandas just get to sit here. And I think the pandas are so cute, especially the little babies who will, like, roll around. I think that's adorable. So I love having the little pandas here. Over here we have the llamas. The llamas are a different story entirely. I don't know how they work. They just kept spitting at me. And I tried to breed them, and I don't know how to breed the llamas. So if you know how to breed llamas, let me know, because I don't know. And then, yeah, and then this right here, I'm leaving it purposefully open, because I think they're adding goats in the next update. I don't entirely know. That update comes out, like, within the week that I'm posting this. So as soon as I get, you know, one of those, or one of the new animals, I'm just going to throw them in there, just because I think that's just a neat place to have them. And then, as I mentioned before, mushroom are my favorite animal, and so I had to bring some mushroom over there, or over here. These ones are not going to be eaten. They won't be hurt in any way, and I brought some mycelium, and I just think they look adorable, so I really love them. And then the final aspect of the zoo, it's not for any animals, and that is because I had two birds, two parrots, that I wanted to bring over here and breed. And before I could do that, I said, how do you breed them? So, two of my moderators, even, informed me that you could breed parrots using chocolate chip cookies. Turns out you can't actually do that. It's poisonous to them. And so this is just to memorialize the parrots that we lost that were so sadly killed. And yeah, that's about it for the zoo. The thing right here, it's kind of just the elephant in the room. It's literally just 100,000 blocks of stone. I got bored one day, like a year ago, I placed 100,000 blocks of dirt, and I thought it would be funny if we did that again, but with stone. So this, in case you're wondering, this is what 100,000 blocks of stone is. I believe it's 50 by 50 by 40 blocks, and it's massive. It is very massive, and I probably should have lit up the top of it. But this is part of the parkour thing. So some of it goes to here, and then the other side goes to the statue of me. I just think it's neat. I really like it. And yeah, this is one of the few projects, that right there, that was not actually done on a stream or a video. I tried to make a video out of it, but it didn't work. I basically just covered an entire hill with blackstone and turned it into this little volcano. And I think it turned out pretty well. I have to be very careful not to fall in the lava. But yeah, I think it's neat. This over here is, I don't know that it has anything particularly good about it. I just decided I wanted, like, I thought I would do, like, a monument of something. Maybe, like, myself in the middle of this area, just because there's a lot of empty space. And for whatever reason, I decided to make a giant chair, and then we put just a golden pile of crap in the middle of it. It's exactly what it sounds like, and it's a very bougie looking chair because I used a ton of gold on it, but I don't know, I thought it was kind of neat. And then this right here is definitely the biggest, like, maybe the Parliament would be, but this is one of the biggest builds that we have in this new city, and this is, oh, I should fly in from the top of it. This is the football stadium, and this was a very new project that I worked on. And I just thought it was neat. As you guys saw before, I have a gladiator arena and a baseball stadium, but I hadn't built a new stadium in quite a long time. And so we decided that we wanted to do football, American football. If you ever hear me say football, I'm not talking about soccer or anything like that. So we just have this. It's pretty basic. On this side, I'll show you the player entrance real quick, just because I think it turned out absolutely wonderful. So, we have, like, 2 locker rooms. That's the red side. It looks the exact same as this. We just have a cute little locker room in here where they can play pool if they want, or they can sit on a chair or at their lockers. And then at the end of the game, or maybe before it, we have a nice little media room. I thought this was real neat. I've never seen anything like this. You know, you see plenty of stadiums that people will make in Minecraft, but you never see anything like this. So we have a little media room where they can talk to them. And then this leads into the area where the fans are. So this is the back closet of, like, you know, the teams, well, I forgot what I called this, Simp Nation merch shop. It's just a merch shop for the blue team, basically, where any of your blue apparel that you want to get, you can go buy it there. And obviously that leads out into the seats where people can go and just watch the football game. But up here, right when you enter the stadium, we have a bunch of little shops that are concessions that I just think are funny. So right here we have the bathroom, and I don't know why. I didn't know how to furnish a bathroom, so I put this in here, and I made it questioning. So, like, if you don't know if you have to go to the bathroom, you go to the bathroom? I don't know. I thought that was funny. We have the Sussy Baka Brugger pile. This was just like an inside joke that my friends and I have of a pile of meat a pile of burger. It is a self-renewing pile of meat that is just really hot, even though it's not on a grill. And you don't pay for it, you just grab some meat, and then for some reason the pile just keeps growing, so you can eat it, and I don't know, that was just the lore behind it. I thought it would be cute. Here we have a sushi shop, sorry about that. We have the non-copyright unnamed redacted sales place. Over here we have the Glizzy Glop shop. So this is like another branch of the hot dog place that I had before. We have the Scandinavian fisherman hut, and then we have the Sear, Shear, and Sheep shop. And then in here, this is the actual bathroom if you know you have to go to the bathroom. So, you know, bathroom without the question mark. I don't know, I just thought it was cute. You know, especially when you've been playing Minecraft for this long, you have to try and come up with fun things to do. So, yeah, I added that. And then the last of the stuff that we have in our city is over here. This is really not hashed out. This stuff I did fairly recently. But with all of the stores and stuff that we had, I thought it was kind of minor, and I thought they were like little shops and stuff like that, but I wanted an actual store in the world. And so this is an actual store. I call it Tadmart. It's meant to be like a Walmart slash grocery store thing, but obviously my name's Tended Tadpole, so, you know, I had to put the Tad in there. And so you walk in, we have aisles upon aisles of absolutely nothing. And then we have a fresh produce area over here. We have just some stuff you can grab here. And then I don't know if they do this where, like, y'all are, especially in, like, the grocery stores near me. Like, around Halloween, they'll just plump a pumpkin in the middle of a store. And then, like, people can write on slips of paper how much they think it weighs. And the person that's closest gets to keep the pumpkin. So I figured we'd have something like that because it looks kind of neat. And then we have just a customer service area. We have a place where you can get meat, like the deli. We have a fish area. And then over here is where you pay at the checkout. It's pretty bare bones, but, you know, I think it gets the job done. If it's not obvious, I'm not the best at trying to decorate these, so I'm really proud of this. I think it turned out wonderfully. And then this over here is, because I have, like, the multiple countries, this is technically a separate country from the first city that I showed you that's in Tadpolia. So this is meant to be, like, the embassy from my one country to the other. So, like, you know, if you need to come in here, you can get, you know, there's reception, you can get, like, a passport, you can come upstairs, and, you know, there's a conference room here, there's a meeting room over here, and you can, like, meet with, the ambassador of Tadpolia, and I don't know what you would meet with them for, but you can. And then as a joke, we named the ambassador Yee Yee after somebody in my chat that wanted to be the ambassador. And we canonically made her... It wasn't her. I don't think it's a her. We made them a 16-year-old girl. And so she has like a fake diary right here, as well as, you know, her actual diary over here where she's calling all the other ambassadors really cute. And she has her nice little bed here, a little office there, a changing room in here, as well as, like, her shoes can be over here. It's nothing too crazy. It's just, like, I thought it was funny, because obviously you can make, like, an actual government building, or you can just make it really fun. So I went that route, and I think it turned out pretty well. And then this space over here is just kind of empty, so that when my friends get their countries finished, they can actually come here and build their own. So... yeah, with that being said, I think that's about it for Tended Groves. Again, I wish I would have showed off more of the, I wish I could show off more of the skyscrapers, but there's really nothing to them. They're just meant to be eye candy, so I just like flying through them. And, yeah. So with that being said, now we're going to move on to all of my friends' countries that have their own individual things. They're not as well hashed out, that's why I kind of saved it for the end. They don't play on the world too much, so you will notice... not to brag or anything, but I have a lot of the best stuff in my countries. So, yeah. Now let's head off onto... we'll go to Rexington first, because it's the closest. So, welcome to the current iteration of Rexington. The way that we came here, this is for my friend Gnarly Rex, and I think I mentioned this before, he cannot pick a country that he wants to live in. And so, he has had about 5 different Rexingtons at this point, and so one day he just, you know, we built a nether portal from the nether, and then came up into the overworld to figure out where it was. And it was a little, like, mini savannah. So we built this cute little island here that has a couple of farms and a few houses. And if it's not obvious already by the building style, I built literally all of this because he played it for, like, a day and a half. And then he just left. And so I finished the entire island, and to no one's surprise, he decided he's annoyed that I finished all of this. I absolutely love this little fishing hut that I made, too. But he decided, because I built so much of this little island for him, he doesn't want to live here anymore, so I call this Rexington, but, you know, in future world tours, this may have a different name, because he has decided this is no longer Rexington. So, yeah, I think it's a cute little island. Nothing too fancy, nothing crazy here, but I really like it. Also, because it's so close to Rexington, I'm just going to fly over really quickly and show you this mansion that I created. Originally it was supposed to be, because I was getting tired of my castle, because I had lived there for so long, and I still technically live there. I wanted just like a new area where I could come and live, so I went out like not too far from where I live now, and I just built this big old mansion that I think was pretty, you know, I thought it was nice the way I furnished it. And so when you come in here, it's meant to just look really richy rich. So we have like an armory over here. You come in here, I have a wonderful little kitchen. I have my own personal room for the dogs. That's how you know we're richy rich. We got a pantry. We have all sorts of stuff in here. My own little bedroom. And I thought it was neat, but I don't live here anymore. I don't know why. I just like, basically as soon as I built this, I decided I didn't like it. I didn't want to live here. And so it just kind of sits here abandoned, sadly, but I thought it was pretty well made. So despite all the things that I was saying about how slow the rails are, the fastest way to get to the next country is actually to take the rails through my main city. So we're gonna fly over here to go to, I call it Grant Central Station, just because, you know, my name's Grant, and I thought it was like a good play on words to call it that. It's based off of like Grand Central Station, and so we just have this little area here. This is where, right over here, I had mentioned that we have like a little ice tunnel. This is where that meets up, if you want to come to my main city. And then Ty has his own specific rail. He is the only other country that actually has a railway to it, and so let's head over to Thailand. And here we are in Thailand, and this is definitely the oldest country that we have aside from my own. He was the first one that really decided he was sick and tired of building all of the skyscrapers and didn't just want to have like a slightly separate area. He wanted to start a completely new area. And so he came out here and he actually made it a rule that technically I'm breaking at the moment, where if you came out here, you needed to take all of like your old armor and stuff like that. And he wanted this to be like a new portion of the world. And so, obviously, I had to come in here and break that rule. And so I brought some sea lanterns and other things to build. I have a little house here, although I don't really use it. Never really did, because I have my own little embassy that I'll show off in a moment. But I think the coolest thing in Thailand, and also I should clarify, his name is Ty, like T-Y, and so it's Thailand, like T-Y-L-A-N-D, because all of the country names are based off of, like, the person who created them. So obviously Tadpolia intended Groves. But he is a huge Star Wars fan, and so he wanted to make the Jedi Temple that is on Coruscant from that. And so we built this. It doesn't look that great. It's pretty small compared to like a lot of them that we looked up to try and get it. But I think it gets the job done. The inside, just like all of my builds, is very barren, but I think it's really cool. And then he was not a fan that I did this either. I love making tall builds, and so I wanted him to have like a little watchtower in case there were like baddies coming to fight him or something like that. So I put that in there. He was not happy with it, but, you know, he was much less happy with the embassy that I built all the way over here. Each country is allowed to have their own embassy that is their own country, and, of course, what better to represent my country than a skyscraper? So I came to the one area where you weren't supposed to do that, and I just put up a giant skyscraper. And I also built the first and only farm that he has in his country, and they used to mooch off it all the time. People, I mean, I'm probably the last person to ever step foot in Thailand anyway, so it doesn't get a lot of use, but it's kind of neat. The funny thing that I like about this, most of it is empty. However, I did build a basement, and that's funny because Ty came out here one time, and he just started deciding that people were banned from his own country. And so, because it's an embassy, this is Tadpolian property, not Thailand. And so, what a couple of my friends that were banned from Thailand decided to do were to fly straight into the embassy so that they never touched Thailand. And then they came and lived out here in the basement, despite the fact that they were banned from Thailand. And they came in here and they mined out further than my property, so technically it was illegal. And then it turned out they were trying to, I think they have armor in here. Yeah, they have their armor in here. They were trying to get a bunch of armor and materials so that they could come on over and then fight Ty and start a war. And being as though I did not want to cause a war out of my embassy, I signed an extradition bill, and Ty came in here and he dealt with them pretty swiftly on that front. But I don't know, I just think it's fun because, you know, a lot of the stuff is my own, or like it has my own touch to it. So I like that there's a country separate to mine. I would love to do more like this in the future where I have other people come in and build their own areas. Oh, and we also have a little meeting room. This is where we met when they decided they were going to fight. And I'm like, how about we don't do that? We just talk it out. And didn't go very well, but we had fun anyway. But, yeah, so that's about it for Thailand. After this, we only really have one more country, and then I'll finish it off after that. So the final country that we have in my world, you actually have to go through the Nether to get to once again. And so, just so that you guys know where we are, that way is Tadshire, that way is how you get to Tended Groves. And then in the opposite direction of that, over here is my friend Salbert. She wanted to make her own country. She probably has, aside from my own countries, I think she has like the most actually finished country of them all, because she really wanted to build in it, and she actually had some cool stuff. And, she built out far enough away that we actually needed to use an ice bridge in the Nether. So, I'll meet you guys once we get there. And welcome to Salbia! Now, this looks a bit different than even I remember, because the last time I was here, and I think the last time I showed it off as well, she had a little roof going here. Recently, she decided she doesn't like this little castle that she built, and so she started tearing it down, which I think is a shame. I thought it turned out really nice. I thought it was a cute little castle, but she did not like it. As you can see, not a ton here, aside from, like, my little village here. This is actually a livable place, though. Like, Thailand, aside from the stuff that I put there, you couldn't really survive there. Here, we actually got, like, a little farm going. We have a couple of houses. The one I'm standing on is actually for one of my mods, Velikan. He came in here and built a house here. So, I think it's really neat. I think you did a great job. Nice job, Velikan. And, for whatever reason, I just thought I'd make this place my home, because Salbert really wanted to have her own country, and so, obviously, I had to put a pit in the ground. We started a mine, although I don't think... Oh, yeah, that goes down all the way. Okay, I guess it works. And then I have my little house here. This one I built while I was still creating Tadshire, and so it definitely looks like some of the houses that I had in Tadshire, but I think it turned out pretty cute. And then one of the funnier things about this was that Salbert was so fixated on building her own little thing over there that, as a joke, I came out here. There were certain things. She didn't want me making any skyscrapers. This is the one area where skyscrapers are explicitly banned. And so, she said she didn't want me making anything huge. So, of course, I just came out in the desert and built this little pyramid out of stone. And I literally just put it there just to see how long it would take her to notice. And I'm pretty sure it took her over a year to figure that out. So, I don't know. I just got a good chuckle out of that I put all that stuff here. So, yeah, that's basically it for all the other countries. I figure the smartest way to end this is to head back, and I have a couple little extra things that I wanted to show off in Tadpolia, and then we will end it in the end. So one of the last things that I wanted to show off is I have this giant mansion here. I know it looks pretty cool at first sight, but trust me, much like everything else, it's mostly empty. I just thought that was cool. As I mentioned before, where we had WCPM Tower, we also wanted to have a mansion where we could all come in here and just, like, live and have fun. So this is WCPM Mansion, and, once again, it is completely empty, much like everything else. But we structured this so that, like, every member that was part of it could have their own, like, floor. It didn't work out very well, but the cool thing that I really liked about this was, like, this is one of the few full community projects that we actually had. We had, like, pretty much all of my friends that were still playing at the time come and help with this, and I just thought it was a really cool mansion. And, like, I do think it's also pretty cool that, like, one of the biggest houses in the world is just, like, the guest house that we have for this mansion. And I think it's kind of cute. This was back when I still had no clue how to decorate. I still don't really know how to decorate. So, it's completely empty, but I had, like, some ideas for it, and I thought it was kind of cool. And, I just love this area because, like I said, like, we never came together on individual builds. The system of countries that we created only existed because people were, like, sick and tired of one another and wanted to have their own little area. So, I just like that we have this spot where we can just... We came here and got along for at least a little bit. And then the last stuff that I want to show off is... It's some stuff that I kind of skipped while we were going through earlier. This I probably ought to mention. This was meant to be a yacht, but my friend never finished it, so we kind of just ignored that, and it's a bit of an eyesore. But this stuff right here, I think is really cool. So what I'm standing on right now is... This is one of, like, the first designs that I made for a mansion. I should say, I made mansions earlier on in my world, but this was the first one where, like, I really made an effort, and I made one in creative before I ever tried anything like this. And, you will notice it has, like, this sort of, archway theme that I have tried on a couple of different things, like, especially the Parliament building has something like this, and... I know it doesn't look like much, but this was also one of, like, the first live streams I was ever able to do, and I built this little mansion here, and I thought it turned out absolutely wonderful, and so, it's nothing too big, but it holds a good place in my heart, because this was one of the first builds I built after, my YouTube started doing, like, decently well, and so I just kind of remember it for that. But more importantly than that is we have over here a birthday cake. Now, as I mentioned, my world is now 7 years old, and last year for its birthday, we came in here and we created this little, whoops, I gotta open a little bit more. We created this little birthday cake thing that was, I don't know, I just thought it was very sentimental. I forgot to put anything in it this year, so I'll have to do that at some point. But we just have something in here from like every year that I've had the world, and I don't know, it's a really sentimental thing. If you guys ever have a world that you continue for a decent amount of time, or even if you don't, I think it's just really cool to keep some of your, like, your first things, or just to remind you of, like, you know, how far you've come along, because, I mean, this is just beautiful, and I don't know, I get really sappy when I'm in there, so we'll get out of there. And, yeah, that's basically it that I wanted to show you. And so the final place that we will end off this video, I think it's fair to end this video in the end. I know. If you saw the last world tour, this was not here. This is the statue of myself. This was the first one that I made, so the one that you saw in Tended Groves is actually a replica of this one. But, I used to have a mansion here that I thought was just so ugly. I hated the thing. And so I literally blew it up, and then underneath here, oh, I'm gonna get you guys for some food, sorry about that. Underneath here is where we have, I got really lucky because it was such a small world on the Xbox 360. I had both a spawner as well as my, like, what's it called? The stronghold spawn in, like, the same area. So I'm not gonna show it off, but, like, down these stairs, you can see here where, like, I beat the hell out of the skeletons. They land down here, I punch them, and that's my XP farm. However, I think the cooler thing with that is that it's connected right here to my end portal. So, I don't know, I just like how close in proximity it is. Because nowadays when I see that stuff, I mean, people are tracking thousands of miles to go, or not miles, but thousands of blocks to go from, like, an XP farm over to their stronghold. So, I think it's really cool. Now, the end itself, you may expect me to have a little bit more than I actually do. It's kind of bland for the time being. On the old days of the Xbox 360, I used to have an ender, and when I did that, I covered the entire end in water. It took me a full 2 weeks to do it, and then they made it a thing to where you could reset the end, and you could fight the Ender Dragon over and over again. So I have since gotten rid of that. I want to do something with this area, but I haven't. I did try and make... I did make a skyscraper in here at one point, but as you can see, we fought the Ender Dragon again, and oh boy howdy did she make me regret that. But, yeah, I think that's about it. Again, nothing too crazy. I would like to do more with the end at some point, but it's just such a hostile dimension that I'm just so scared to do it. But, I don't know, I think it's kind of neat. So with that being said, that's pretty much everything that I have in the world up until this point. I know I must have forgotten a couple of things, so if you have any questions, I would love to hear them in the comments down below. And thank you guys so much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that has supported me these past couple years that I've been doing YouTube. I really appreciate it. If you've made it this far in the video, it would really warm my heart if you would give me a like. And I'm going to keep playing on this world, so if you want to see more of it and you'd like to see how I progress it, I would love it if you subscribed. And if you want to check out any of my other social media, they're linked down below. But thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you guys.